Back again, 2.3. So we just talked about embodied energy, energy storage systems, and individual energy systems. The next up is life cycle and environmental impact matrix. So you're going to use these two tools to evaluate certain systems or possible products in the, well, you're just going to use the tools to evaluate systems or products. So life cycle analysis. We talk about this a lot. You'll probably see it in exams. It's gonna pop up, all right? So life cycle analysis is a tool that's used for manufacturers or designers or companies to assess the impact of a product or that entire process on the environment. So you can take a particular product and look at it. You know how things are made. We talked about extraction of raw materials, then going into fabrication, then going into distribution, use, and then disposal. We talked about that cycle. But what this does is it can break it down. You can see this as a diagram, the way that it's rotating around and can tell you more about that product. But they also organized it into this matrix with specific types of qualities or specific types of impacts, you could call it, and then different phases of the process of its production. So you can look at the pre-production, which is about extraction of raw materials, production, distribution and packaging, utilization, and disposal. So it's looking at that cycle that, remember, circular economy was another word? So looking at that cycle and just breaking it down, and it can be analyzed. So you can take any product, chuck it into this matrix, and then say how green, not green, how does it impact the environment, okay? So, and here are these characteristics and things that can be used. A little bit more information. Yeah, it really depends. The different phases can make a bigger impact or less of an impact depending on how it's used, depending on how much it's done. It's not the most efficient, but it's a good start at trying to analyze how the environment is impacted. Here's looking at these three different products. So refrigerators, washing machines, and cars. So like I was saying, you can literally take that refrigerator, chuck it in, and then look at the different phases and then see on a scale of low, medium, and high. Sometimes people use numbers, sometimes people use quantity. It can change, but just for our purposes, it's nice if it's low, medium, or high. So a refrigerator, pre-production, does not use a whole lot of water, right? Throughout the whole phase, it doesn't use a whole lot of water. But if you look at something like a washing machine, in the utilization, it's going to use a lot of water. So this is it's just a way to communicate the impacts on the environment that this product has, okay? So refrigerator, here's a little bit more information. This is kind of a summary about the refrigerator. Here's the table for the washing machine. Here's the table for the summary for the washing machine. Table for the car. So again, you can see air contamination is high during utilization, but it's medium. It's high during utilization, but maybe it's a bit low during disposal. Yeah, it's a little bit low during disposal, okay? So noise could be really loud whenever they're crunching up those cars. So all these types of factors can affect this product on the different phases of the life cycle. Okay, it's actually a really handy little tool to be able to see what's happening all at once and to communicate those impacts, okay? So your task is going to be eventually your task is going to be to pick a product, and you're going to create a table like this. Inside of that form, I want you to show me the link to the page, or if you want to write it out yourself or in your notes, whatever it is, to show me that you've actually done a bit of an analysis on a product, okay? So talking more about this, one thing is it really depends on what the decision needs to be made, right? So this one is looking at cars. It's what is the most important thing for what does that manufacturer want to use? So if you really want to reduce water consumption, then they can look at it and say, okay, well, our water is already pretty low, but let's try to make it use less water in the utilization of it, right? Or if it's in the machine, it's high, let's get that down to medium. So you can prioritize as a manufacturer and try to say, what are the things that are most important? So looking at a car, it's pretty clear that the use in these two different cars is what takes up the most. So then it takes up the most amount of carbon CO2 emissions. So see how this is the different processes, how much material is, how much CO2 it happens when it's exposed or, disposed of. So it's really up to the manufacturer to decide which to prioritize, okay? You can see use is big, so it's important for them to reduce use, but see the disposal stays the same, production stays the same, materials are all the same. So they're trying to reduce that use, right? How much CO2 is used during use, okay? Similar type of things, so you can see how those materials are changing as this is on a scale, and these are the different categories, so CO2, PM, HC, so this is again what's happening and how things could possibly change, and again to be able to prioritize. So sometimes it looks at high things that already exist that make a big impact for products. So it's easy to reduce that and make improvements. Really, they're already trying to find some of those, but what do you do if you have a hybrid car where it's already low? If you have companies that already make low environmental impact products. So that's the one thing about it. It's really targeted at some of those types of companies. Okay, here's a little bit more detail about that, why it's analyzed and why it's not widely used. It can be a little bit expensive. And it takes a lot of time, but maybe they don't necessarily need to use it. So here's some benefits, here's some advantages and disadvantages. Like I said, a big disadvantage is the time, but then it could hugely impact the ecosystems and that sustainable development. Remember about impacting future generations, right? So it's really important to consider as in the development of design or in the development of products. So that's the life cycle analysis, this tool that is used to support decision making for the designers and manufacturers and understand how the product or process impacts the environment. So that environmental impact assessment matrix, that's what this is. This is the impact assessment matrix. So now I want you to use this, pick any product and analyze it. Maybe you have to do some extra research, but try to find out what is it medium, low, or high? How is that product impacting the environment? You do a short life cycle assessment for a product of your choice and write back. Okay? Let me know if you have any questions, and hope you save the world.